to the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. I'd just like to make an announcement. If there's anybody in the room or in the vicinity, that Hillside Commercial Park has been postponed and will not be heard tonight. We do not have a date as to when it will be heard, but the announcement will go out when we know. Okay, so also 7 Wells Lane, which was also on the agenda tonight, will be postponed. We do not have a date for them to return either. And so we will move forward. So the first item up tonight is the Cunningham House site plan. PB number 15-56, parking facility and fence plan. They're here for pre-preliminary, preliminary, final site plan. Okay, for those of you who've just walked in who are, the Hillside has been postponed. If you're here for something else, then. Okay. I'm just going to let you know that if I see people coming in while you're speaking, I'm going to let them know too, so they're not just saying, usually I just make one announcement, but, okay? All right. Okay, so first thing you'll do is you'll state your name and your affiliation with the project for the record, and you'll sign that sheet in front of you, please. Okay?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Verrilli. I'm the attorney for the Cunningham House.
My name is Steve Jansen. I'm the owner. My wife and I are the owners
Okay.
of the Cunningham. My wife is right behind me.
Hi. Okay, so can you just give us a brief introduction?
Sure. Like I said, I'm the attorney for the Cunningham House. They own the property at 118 Main Street in Tappan, New York. The members of the LLC are Stephen Jansen and his wife, Zara Jansen. They purchased the property at 118 Main Street in October of 2013, the purpose of which was to operate 2 small businesses, one a film documentary company, and the other a boutique in the first floor of the retail space. Since that time, they've invested a substantial amount of money in the interior, and the plan before you was their attempts to, beautify the exterior. And what we presented here is a gravel parking area, 5 spots, that's lined with Belgian block along the border. There's also some landscaping around the exterior along Old Tappan Road and the 76 house, which is the adjacent property. To accomplish this, they basically removed a portion of the back part of the lawn. At the time, it was basically ground cover, some grass, and some shrubs. The purpose of this was basically to provide a parking area for the employees of the businesses, as well as the customers and clients that may come to the property. There's also a fence, as you know, that was installed along Old Tappan Road. It's a 4-foot-high privacy fence made of cedar wood. The work was done in reliance on a 1973 Historic Board approval that they were given when they purchased the property. My clients are not, commercial property owners. This is their first venture into it, and they relied on, representations from the previous owner as well as the historic approval to do the work. They were not aware that additional approvals would be required. When they did find out, they did submit for a permit. That was done in March of 2015. Since that time, they've spent a substantial amount of money to not only obtain, a site plan, a drainage plan, but also to, legal fees and whatnot, because the building department had initiated a violation proceeding against them. The initial project was an $11,000 project. Since that time, their costs have skyrocketed basically to $22,000. And at this time, based on the letters that they received from the town and Rockland County, they know that this plan is not going to be accepted as is, and they're really looking for comments to find out what they can do to minimize costs going forward, but still kind of keep in the beautification of the property, whether that be reducing the size of the parking lot, the parking area and whatnot, limiting it only to employees as opposed to visitors, clients, all that. At worst case scenario, they have expressed a willingness to actually fill in the entire parking area, reseed it, because at this time, they cannot afford to move forward with the exorbitant cost that it's taking in order to get it approved.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
All right. John, what's the story here? I mean, is there something that they can do where they doesn't have to spend a fortune, or, you know?
And there's certain things they have to comply with under the code.
Okay,
If they can't comply with it, they can go to the ZBA for variance.
okay,
So for example, I know they want to keep it gravel. Code requires it to be paved. So if they don't want to pave it, that's my first comment, they can,
Right.
they can then go to zoning board, request variances. You'll need a variance for a certain number of spots.
We understand.
It's in my comments.
Yeah,
And you actually change the configuration from the 1973 plan.
yeah.
There was a plan approved back in 1973.
Right.
But it's a different configuration, so this is actually,
Smaller,
it's
okay.
actually
Well,
different
let's,
in the layout.
yeah.
okay, so
They
let's.
probably didn't have handicap back then.
Right.
They didn't have
No,
handicap,
of course not.
accessible spaces.
So
back
the
then.
question is, you have to work out an idea with the buildings department on what's going to be the best step forward for you, okay? We're pretty flexible on that as a board, but I don't want to give you guidance that is, A, going to cost you a fortune, and also, B, that's not going to be in cooperation with the buildings department. So my suggestion is that, you know, I'll read the comments, you ask for a continuance, but you work out what you can do with them. That's gonna be, ma'am, you can't shake your head while I'm trying to speak because it's very, very distracting, okay? If you can't and you wanna grass it over, then, you know, that's up to you. But, you know, what I'll do is I'll read the comments, okay? I will let the board comment on you can hear what they have to say. And of course, they don't have drainage, so we're not going to act on this tonight, okay? We can't. And then, moving forward, you can make a decision on what you're going to do, okay? So, with that. The PRC has no additional comments beyond the comments submitted by other agencies for this project. From the Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning, Administration Enforcement, John Giardella, dated December 9th. All of these comments, I believe that you have, okay? Mr. Giardella has 8 comments, and I will just read number 1, which is the parking lot shall be constructed in accordance with the section 6.36 of chapter 43 zoning, or a zoning board of appeals variance will need to be sought. Okay? Moving next, from Bruce Peters, Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, dated December 3rd. Mr. Peters has 11 comments. From Brooker Engineering, dated December 3rd. The application has not provided sufficient information to demonstrate the potential significant adverse impacts with respect to drainage will be mitigated. We therefore recommend that the Cunningham House site plan not be approved for drainage at this time. Then from the Rockland County Department of Planning. The Rockland County Department of Planning has 11 comments. However, there are certain things that we as a board can override with the Rockland County Department of Planning if we have a supermajority, which is 5. Okay? So we would, if you would have an objection, you can ask us to override those objections, and then we would do that. We'll not do that tonight, again, because you're not going anywhere. But there are, I don't want to give you but there are certain items, again, that you might not have to do here that we could override based on what your what you ask us to do. If you're here for Hillside, it's been postponed. Okay. Thank you. All right, so Rockland County, as I said, dated November 13th, and they have 11 comments. Rockland County Department of Health, that you'll need the mosquito review. Rockland County Sewer does not object to the planning board serving as lead agency and requires no future comments. Rockland County Drainage. It's outside the jurisdiction of the Rockland County Drainage Agency. And then there's correspondence from the Orangetown ZBA, the Rockland County Department of Health, not objecting us to serving as lead agencies, And Rockland County Department of Highways. The Rockland County Department of Highways finds that the proposed 8 parking spaces and the proposed 4 feet privacy fence would not have adverse impact on the adjacent county highways. The location of parcel lies next to Main Street and Old Tappan Road. The RCHD work permit will be required for this development. Please call, and then you can, that's from Sunny Lynn. Okay, and Cheryl, I think that's all I have. So, okay?
Okay. So basically, your suggestion is that we work with the building
Yeah, let me
department
ask
to
the
come to...
board if they have any comments, and then you can ask for your continuance when that's done, okay? Go ahead, Bill. You might want to use the mic because we're on TV, and just bring the mic down for you. It should be on.
Mr. Garvey's right. We're pretty flexible and easy to work with. I did go by the site last night, and I saw the parking lot, and I'd hate to see you scrap what you already have there. I understand what you did. You didn't come in for the proper approvals, and you did what was pretty much done by your next-door neighbor there. I mean, you do enter in the gravel and then come through. It is a nice fence, and you do have, I think, adequate parking for 6 or 7 spots, but let's just go through the proper channels, and it will be very accommodating and easy to work with. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Dell?
I agree with much of what Mr. Young just said. Obviously, there's a tremendous shortage of parking in this area, but then by the same measure, just to the west of you, there's quite a bit of parking that possibly something could have been worked out in there. I looked at what you did. It looked like you did a very nice job with what you had. Obviously, there may be too much parking that you put in there. The other question, I assume you have that right-of-way established with the neighbor? Okay, because right now where it's showing, it looks like your exit is actually beyond the right-of-way possibly. So anyway, that's only a small encroachment on the end of it. Again, follow procedure, and hopefully we could work something out. Well, I understand what you're trying to do. However, we have to find out and see what happens next.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Just to something you said, that our neighbor to the west does have a large gravel lot, but he has been leasing 12 spaces along the side, the southern side, to the public library in town, which just speaks to what you said, which is there is a lack of parking in the town anyway, you know. And I think recently the town also decided not to allow parking on the western side of Main Street. Am I right?
I don't know if that's true or not.
So anyway.
Okay.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Dell. Mr. Bond?
All right, so basically, they're in here just for parking spaces? That's what they're in here for, parking spaces?
Pretty much. Well, they
Parking
were
lot,
issued a
but-
violation, so they have to come to us. What's that? No, you can say if I'm,
It
if I'm in.
was a criminal summons that was issued, so. Then we proceeded to follow the building department's requests for demands for engineering, you know, drainage plan, survey, all the other elements. So that's why we're here. Yeah.
It's pretty harsh. Mr. Bond, is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's it, I don't know.
Sorry. Mr. Warren?
The only question I have is, on one map, you show 6 parking spots, the other one says 7, and you had said that you only plan on putting in 5. So I think you have to get that straightened out.
Yeah.
And Sunny Lynn said 8, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like
Right.
that.
Originally, when the 2 plans were done, they were done with the understanding that it would be a 6-spot parking lot. Then, when working with the building department, they pointed out that there was no handicap parking, so the handicap parking took up 2 spots, so now it's a 5-spot parking lot. It wasn't changed to reflect that on the drainage plan, I believe, but the site plan had the handicap spot there.
Okay, so once you come in with your final plan, that will be addressed.
Right, whatever, if it requires a handicap spot at that time, if they're going forward with the parking area, then it will have that, yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warren. Mr. Sweeney?
I think it's all been said. I have nothing new to add.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Mandel?
Yeah, okay, when you do bring in your new map of the parking spots, suggestion that you move, I think on the map where you show 6 spots, you show the handicapped in parking spot number 1. If I'm the driver of that car, I couldn't get out of that car. Even if I wasn't handicapped, it'd be a little bit difficult. I suggest you move it over to either 5 or 6 on your,
Just, would this handicap spot be required if there was a plan in place where it was just employees only or not open to the public?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean,
Still
fortunately,
required.
I don't want to say unfortunately, but.
but I would move it over, because the
Yeah,
other way, if
To the
they
other-
pull in, yeah, I would move it all
So
the
they
way
could pull
west-
straight
to
out.
the southern side. of the
southern
lot,
side,
right?
yeah. It would make it much easier, I think, and you could still possibly get your 7 spots in there,
Yeah,
you know, if you move it over, because you have that one spot between 1 and 2, you have that lined off, there was no parking. If you move it over to like 6,
yeah.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
may
we-
be able to
totally
put the
fine.
7 spots in there, or just make it wider on each side there, because there seems to be room, and it's a spot that can be pulled in and backed out of easily
Right.
without backing through the fence, so that's one suggestion. And as they're talking about the easement, not only, if you read the notes there, and DEME and Rockland Planning both say you should show it on that site plan.
Yeah.
Also mark the Lieber and the page numbers and everything that shows it, and I would
Yeah.
attach a copy of it.
Yeah, I did some research on that. Essentially, there is no specific easement agreement. It first shows up in a deed dating back to about 1947, and that's the first time it shows up in the chain of title. So
Okay.
I did attach it to a submission, but if I needed to get like a, an official copy of it or whatnot,
Right.
I could do that.
Can you get a, do you have a title company you're working with? That you can
I
get
could, I could get a title
a-
company
You know, a certification letter that,
to search that there is no,
well, that, it says that that deed gives you, you know, the access or the easement right to get in there.
yeah, it's listed in there. I mean, it says, including the easement, thereafter.
And just one last thing, the 1973 Historic Area Board of Review variance, it's only a zoning board that can do a variance, so where that showed up, I have no idea, but it looks like a good project, I mean, and maybe worth going to the zoning board to get the variance for the stone, even though it's against, they could apply, right, John, for a variance on that? Okay.
I think that it,
What do they need preliminary from us to go?
no, no, yeah, they do, but they don't have drainage, so they can't get anything.
we can't give anything.
But yeah, so I think that if you get preliminary from us and kind of a sign off from the town, you should be good to go. You know, I think, I don't think that you're asking for an egregious amount, so, right?
But once you get that complete site plan in with the lighting and the other things that they asked for, it'll make it a lot easier landscaping, but show it all.
About the lighting, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure about lighting.
Yeah, if
that's
you
all.
have no lighting, then there's,
Yeah,
there's no plan
that was-
necessary.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right,
okay, so if you'll have to formally ask for a continuance,
yes. We'd like to ask for a continuance on this
Okay.
matter.
and we'll grant you the continuance and see you sometime soon, hopefully. Okay, thank you.
Should we coordinate with the office to get a new date?
Yeah, but my suggestion is don't come back until you have drainage.
Thank you, I appreciate all your help on this too as well. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is K&P Paving Corporation, overnight storage site plan, PB number 15-57, Route 303 overlay zone, preliminary, final site plan, and secret review. Would you please sign in and state your name for the record, and I'll make one more general announcement that the Seven Wells site plan, Seven Wells Lane site plan and Hillside have both been postponed. Okay,
Bruce Rogers, I'm the attorney for
okay, Mr. Rogers, you said?
Yes.
You can sit down, you don't, and I just want to let you know, I think you've been before my planning board before?
Before this board, I've been before the planning board many times, but not before this board, not
Okay.
on believe so, Mr.
I
Garber.
just want to let you know that it's not a courtroom, okay? I warn all my attorneys that it's not a courtroom, it's just, okay? It's a
Understood.
It's a planning board. So let us know why you're here, briefly, and what you're looking for, and we'll move forward. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
This is, K&P Paving is a small paving company that acquired this property approximately 2 years ago. It is an older home that's been used as an office. The prior occupants were also office users, and then they stored materials in the back. This application is really to get approval for parking in the rear of the property, which exists. I know we have to go before before the zoning board, if you recommend it, to get overnight parking because it's not permitted in the zone. I also asked for permission for maintenance of some storage containers. There have been storage containers on the property for many years. They were there, they've been moved, they've come back, they've been relocated on the property. All the prior tenants, D&D Landscaping was a prior tenant, and before that was a communications company. They stored material on it. When the material was gone, the containers were moved, then they came back. They're shown on the plan that we submitted. There are a couple of containers there. They're metal containers. Everything is enclosed within them, but they're not on foundations. They're movable, and they've been moved. The parking area is an area that has existed for some 15 years. It's a macadam and gravel parking area behind the garage. It's shown on the approved site plan from 2006. It's been there, and that's the area that's been used. But obviously, we don't have permission for overnight parking. We're not proposing to do any construction at all. We don't want to do anything. All we want to do is get permission to park some vehicles and keep some equipment that are used by the company behind the garage area where there's a parking spot. That is set back pretty far from Route 303. It's behind a screen fence that apparently was built a number of years ago by the cell tower people. Cell tower was approved on this site, I believe, about 10 years ago. And a cell tower was constructed, and they put a fence around it for protection. And this fence divides the office area from the back storage area and cell tower area. So we are not proposing to do no grading, no drainage, no construction, just permission to park the vehicles and to maintain the existing storage units that are there. It's very common in the area. Right across the street is a construction company which has overnight parking and storage containers. Our southerly neighbor has a large trailer on the property for years. Our northerly neighbor on the west side of 303 has vehicles parked in the back for years. So it's nothing unusual. Basically, it's all hidden from Route 303, but it exists. And that's the substance of our application.
Okay, thank you. I'll read the comments. The PRC has no additional comments beyond the comments submitted by other agencies for this project. From the Office of Building, Zoning, and Planning Administration Enforcement, John Giardella, December 9th. Mr. Giardella has 8. I will read number 1. On December 4, 2015, a site inspection of the property revealed that a large dump truck and backhoe were parked in the rear perimeter of the tower antenna enclosure. In addition, the rear yard was cleared to the back beyond the metal container located further west on the property. The property appeared to have been filled in the rear. Along the north and west property lines, several storage bins and sheds were existing. In addition, the paved portion of the existing macadam parking area behind the detached garage appears to have never been approved and may have been added without the proper drainage approvals. The existing fence and gate along the rear of the detached garage appears to never have been approved. All items existing and proposed must be shown on the proper site plan submitted in accordance with Chapter 21A of the Town Code. Then there's 7 other additional comments. From Bruce Peters, Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, December 3rd. They have 7 comments. From the Rockland County Department of Planning, they have disapproved, marked, and they have 3 with sub-comments of their 3 comments. Rockland County Department of Highways. Department finds that the proposed user variance in parking and storage would not have adverse effect on the adjacent county highways. The location of parcel lines about 500 feet from the closest county road. A RCHD work permit will not be required for this development. Rockland County Sewer does not object to the planning board serving as lead agency and requests no future correspondence for the site. Rockland County Department of Health. There are no Rockland County Department of Health approvals needed for the application from the Department of Transportation of the State of New York. We would like to inform you that the preliminary site plans show no impact to the state highway system. However, when the detailed site plans are developed, please send an electronic copy to the department for our review and files. We have no additional comments to offer at this time. There's correspondence from Rockland County Department of Health and from the Orangetown ZBA, not objecting to this board serving as lead agency. And that's all I have, Cheryl. Is that it? Okay. So, John, can you let us know what we're doing here? I mean, they don't have anything.
This property was, prior to King and P, they had cleared the back and were restoring logs, and other people were using it. Apparently the guy, so there was also a concrete person there, they were storing forms there. He sold it, moved out, so it never was formally approved. I have to make that clear, that rear portion. Only thing that was approved was the area that's enclosed by a fence to the tower. And the rest of it was never approved by this board.
Okay.
Okay, so they did come in 2004 for an actual expansion of the site plan. We were gonna add parking to the back, but I don't believe they went any further. On that plan, it shows where the existing pavement went to, which was the front of the garage, not the rear of the garage. They may have added it later on, I don't know. So that's why, when I went out there and looked at it the other day, I want to bring it to your attention. There's other things done that are not really being clearly shown on that plan that they submitted. They just submitted a survey, and I don't even know where they were gonna put the cars. They were pointed out on that plan that they want to store overnight. There's also other vehicles, it's not just cars. They have a truck back there, there was a backhoe, and you gotta know what else they're storing.
Okay, was a violation issued?
Yeah, that's why he's here, he was in court,
Okay,
right?
well, that's what you should let us know before you sit down.
Court, not yet? No. So you just got it.
Yeah, when I was advised of it, we immediately got started and submitted the application to the planning board for the request.
Our code enforcement officer cited them, thought they were in court, because we never got that far.
Okay, so
Cited them and said,
basically, they're going to need drainage and a whole site plan and all of that for us to even start to look at this, correct?
That is a question as to if the use is permitted by right.
Okay.
Because he's a paving company. I guess he operates his business out of it.
Well, it's a business, okay? It's a business and they operate,
Okay.
that's where the business operates.
So,
So, I mean,
all right.
I don't really have an issue with that as long as he operates out of the office area. All the other things he needs to get approvals for, the outside storage, which is here.
Yeah, so, I
But he
mean,
needs to get a better plan.
yeah, you have to come up with a better plan than what we have before us. So, does anybody have, do you guys want to comment on this? So I'll let the board comment, and then we'll move forward from there. Go ahead, Mr. Young.
Mr. Rogers, I stopped by the site last night and I met the owner. And he was very accommodating. He showed me the property and it is cleaned up. They did a good job cleaning it up. Correct. However, he is storing large dump trucks on there for paving, like a paving business would have. And I agree with our town engineer. As long as he goes through the proper channels, gets the variances required, I don't think we'll have a problem with it. And the owner seemed very sincere that he was going to.
Yes.
So, like I said, the place looks, it's cleaned up very nicely. There is that cell tower in the middle, and he's just looking for storage and parking. So,
Correct.
as long as there's no other activities or that he has planned,
That's it.
Maintenance of his trucks there could be an issue.
One of the other things I want to make clear is, we never discussed this, it's for his use only. He's not going to lease it out.
No, he's,
The former owner was leasing it out, just so you know, there was a tree
Yeah.
company in there. Like I said, there was other things, we had to go after them and try to clean it up, and it was a difficult thing to do.
yeah,
What-
John, the prior owner had, I believe, 2 or 3 tenants on the property. This owner is the sole occupant. There are nobody else on the property. There's no other business. It's solely his business. He needs all the property for his business. So he's not leasing to anybody else.
That's what we want to hear, but our compliance people are going to make sure that it stays that way.
That's fine.
And just hearing you say, well, the norm in that area, you have a landscaping guy next door. Sarvis Tree is up the road to the north there, 2 doors down. I don't know if they have compliance issues. They don't, they're okay. So as long as your owner complies with what these guys have done, there shouldn't be an issue.
Understood. Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dell, go ahead.
Yes, I also looked at the property like the other board members. Two things that were unusual about it. First of all, it looked like you went over it fairly recently with tracked equipment to level it out. I don't know how recently that was done. The main concern I have with this is the amount of area you have there and the amount of trucks that could potentially be parked there. It seems to be excessive of anything other than you would need for a fairly large operation. I'd like to see a limit as to the number of vehicles that actually could be in there. Now, granted, it's abutting the railroad property, and that area seems to have quite a bit of use similar to this in the back. Another thing that should also be looked at carefully, is whether or not the entrance to this property is sufficient and has the amount of turning radiuses you need to get this equipment in and out on a daily basis and pull out safely into Route 303. That's more of a traffic concern. You might don't know, John, do they have to refer this to the state? Okay.
For what, for DOT?
They did,
Yes.
they had no comment.
They did it right. The state may comment on it.
All right, I missed that. Okay, because I don't see how you could easily pull a truck out of there without at least a little bit of an acceleration or deceleration lane.
It's not,
I've been to,
it's not something that the DOT mentioned.
Okay.
I mean, the lot's huge.
Now, I know that. I'm talking about the front of it and where it enters 303. All right, other than that, I understand what you're trying to do. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Bob, excuse me, just a second. If you noticed where the driveway comes out, it's
Yes.
kind of on the crest of 303.
I
so
see
he's
that.
got he's got a very good view
He's got
of both
excellent line
ways.
of sight. I was
Yeah.
just concerned about deceleration and
But he's got,
acceleration.
they have enough view to see what's coming.
Well, it's something the applicant might want to consider just for his own use, to have a little bit easier time coming in and coming out. Just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Mr. Warren?
None whatsoever, thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, it just seems to me that the owner's under it's unfortunate that those prior things being done on this property, and now he's taken over trying to do similar things, and we're finding out that there are some things that weren't approved. So it seems like, to me, like the building department's comments are pretty clear, and once those were satisfied, it'd be easy for this board to act. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Mandel?
Yeah, just to piggyback on Mr. Dell's comments, if you're gonna be pulling in and out of there, not only with a large dump truck, but with a large trailer attached to that dump truck, with at least possibly 3 pieces of paving equipment on it, that's something that they definitely have to look at when you're coming out of that, or going into that location.
Okay, but I just want to warn you and Mr. Dell 2 things, that's not something that they need to, that has to be looked at by the DOT.
Right.
They're not going to be able to put in deceleration or acceleration
No.
lanes on Route 303.
No, this may be that they'll need to enlarge the entrance exit way, that's a possibility on their property, because when you go to the back there, just for information for the record, there were 3 dump trucks, 1 pickup truck, 1 other truck, 2 trailers for transport, 8 pieces of contractor's equipment, 2 trailers not on the plan for storage, an excavator and a pile of Belgian blocks. On the south side, you had a trailer, but not on the property line, different location of what's shown on this little rough map that was given. So definitely would need and looking at the size, it's a full-size dump truck. It's a full-size trailer that would be attached to it with
Correct.
3 pieces of paving equipment on it. You're talking about a heavy load. And that would, something that should be considered for safety reasons for that road. Do you know when that rear area was filled in?
I asked my client, he said they never filled it in. He said what happened was when the prior tenant, the landscaping place, was there, they had all kinds of stuff all around. So all he did is clean it up because they left logs and broken pieces of concrete and stuff. So he just removed all the stuff that had been there to make it look neat, because it looked, as I'm sure John knows, he was there, it was a terrible mess. And I went on behalf of the prior owner. There had been a violation to the prior owner that had to be cleaned up, so not the tenant, but the owner came in and pushed it. And then when he sold it to K&P, they understood that they had to clean it up, so they removed all the old debris that had been there from the landscaping company and just cleaned up everything. They didn't do, they don't use the very back of the property. The whole, I would say maybe the last 100 feet or so is just vacant. They use the area behind the garage probably for maybe 75 feet, where you're correct, there's a full-size dump truck there. They have a couple of 3 or 4 pieces of paving equipment and some other related pieces of equipment. They were all stored behind the fence, behind the garage, but all up relatively close. The back area, I say, runs to the railroad, and there's no usage of that area.
What do they plan to store in those containers, do you know?
Pardon?
What do they plan to store in those?
They keep material that they use. I don't know in detail. He said, when I spoke to Claver, who's the principal, the owner, he said, it's all material that we use for our jobs. We keep it in there so it's not exposed. It's within a closed container, and we take it out as we need it.
Yeah, well, you're going to have the fire department look at that, make sure that what's being stored in there is permissible.
Yeah,
You know,
there's
you're-
nothing, my understanding, there's nothing flammable or incendiary or toxic in there.
Okay.
That's my understanding. But I'm happy, if the board would like to look, I would happy to make arrangements to have them open so that the board can come in and see
I
what's
would
in
just
there.
have the fire
Fire.
department, the fire inspector look at
Right.
it. We don't need to look at it, but you
Okay,
should have the fire.
I would be
I think
happy.
that, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mandel.
All right, now, in the back, there's a lot line discrepancy in the southeast corner?
No, we have, if you look at the
Yeah, is that part of your
approved
property?
map, we have a deed to that particular parcel. Our deed gives us this parcel. Another owner said they may own it, but the adjacent neighbor, they put up a fence back there on their property, and apparently have ceded this. They're not raising any dispute on the property.
Okay, when you do submit the proper site plan, it has to be shown back there.
Yeah, it is on the site plan that was approved
Yeah.
by the planning board in 2006, and it shows this is a stub parcel that was
Right.
deeded many years ago.
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
but I'm sorry.
yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say, but still, it says there's an instrument from
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah,
Right.
there
But I'm
was,
saying it just has to be cleared up. Your surveyor noted it, so
yeah, he noted it.
somebody has to clear it up.
Well, the title company, we have a title report
Okay.
saying that it's ours, but the existing owner has, the adjacent owner, who was the one that might possibly have a claim to it, has put up a fence separating the parcel we have from his. So I'm assuming he has no interest in the particular parcel.
Right, but we're saying we can't assume that. You have to have the title company clear
Okay.
it up so that either your surveyor can say it is yours or it is not yours, or, maybe get a quitclaim deed from the guy. I don't know, something that just clears it up.
Okay.
This is a
We can do
question
that.
for Mr. McGreevy. On the Rockland County planning, they disapprove, but they say this is not a permitted use in the LO zone. What
Right.
is the,
What I was gonna comment was, I think, obviously this is gonna come back. I think Mr. Giardello is gonna have to make a determination, because it's his determination to make, not theirs. And once he makes a determination, if somebody wishes to challenge it or.
He operates his business from there.
Right.
yeah,
And
Right.
we do allow business/professional offices. It's not really stated what kind of business, so.
Okay, well, you'll have to, you know, make a determination and then let us know, you know. You think you did?
I mean, I don't think it's an issue with his use,
Okay.
it's more like what his
Yeah, so, okay, so that's fine. So then we
He's saying
can,
it now, I think maybe just put it in your comments.
yeah, and then that way the Rockland County Department of Planning can look at it once
Right.
again.
Similar to Solicito's place down on 303.
Sure.
You know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, that came in, same thing, he has a business office, it's called, where he runs his business out of, but then the planning board granted him outside, he has a small area where he stores his salt, or not salt, I shouldn't say that, but his mulch, there's a pile in
Right.
the parking area, which was approved that way.
Okay.
And then he has parking for himself and his employees.
Yeah, just one last thing, that when they do come back, he's got to show what they're going to do with any leakage of oil or gasoline or diesel fuel from the trucks, because you are abutting the Spark Hill Creek.
Right, so you'll
Well,
probably have to put in catch basins and
Right.
oil water separators and things of that nature in your plans.
Well, the area that is currently blacktop at parking is on the downslope. It's not,
It doesn't matter, sir. You're going, that's not for us to determine here. You're gonna have to get your drainage together, you're gonna have to get your plans together, and you're gonna have the experts take a look at it and say yes or no. And one of those experts is gonna be the Rockland County Department Drainage Agency. So, okay?
I'm sorry,
The Rockland County Drainage Agency is gonna have to review this as well. You have nothing to show us tonight, so you're going.
no, I do not,
Right,
correct.
so you're gonna have to get back with your client, hire an engineer, and have somebody draw up the plans, submit the plans, and then come back and let us know how you're doing, and then we'll move forward from there.
Okay, are you talking about drainage plans? Because we don't propose to do any drainage. You're talking about what's to be done with any waste oil, and if any of the trucks leak oil onto the property, is that what you're referring to?
Say that again?
You'll have to read the comments.
Yeah, you're gonna have to read all the
Well, I
comments.
read the comment saying that this is within the area of the creek, but as I said, this is on the downslope.
It doesn't,
in the other
it,
direction.
again, you're arguing with us, and
I'm sorry, I'm
it's
not looking
not
to argue.
required. You're going to have to satisfy all of these agencies before we say it's okay. That's the way it works,
Understood.
okay?
Okay,
So-
I will have my client's engineer talk to drainage and discuss it with John.
That would be great, okay? Before we go, Mr. Mandel, are you done? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mandel.
Chairman, I'd like to
Excuse me,
I will gladly. Go ahead.
ma'am, do you wish to speak?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna let you speak, but I'm gonna let Mr. Dell go first, and then you can come up and let us know, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Dell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a point of clarification, I was not advocating dedicated acceleration and deceleration lanes. I was talking about a de facto situation. Also, having been on this board for many years, I'm well aware of what we can do and what the state can do. And the state also required that they get to review your final site plans when it comes in. And just as a heads up, it would probably be something they would probably be concerned with, and something your owner should certainly be concerned with. That is to be able to get the vehicles in and out correctly. The other thing is that the width of that is rather narrow for trucks of that size coming in. So that's another thing you might want to take a look at. That's all, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dell. Ma'am, come on up. Usually you would speak at the mic, however, doesn't seem to be wired tonight, so could you just let us know your name and your address, and,
My name is Mary McLaughlin. I live at 129 West Erie Street in Bloodelt, but I am the owner of 566 Route 303 South, which is the neighbor to the south of the discussed property.
okay,
And a couple of the things that were discussed today with regards to the filling of the property that was done this year. We've owned the property at 566 since, I think, 1998, 1999, and have, seen the progress of who had owned it, what was going on there. There's been various things that, renters and tenants. But we've had issues since the current owner bought the property with regards to the filling in, destruction of our fence, He raised the back property, that's all been filled in above our cinder wall, which is now cracking, and so now we have no drainage off of that. So there have been issues, so I just wanted them as part of the record.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So my suggestion is that you listen to what your neighbors are saying and make sure that these items are cleared up before you come back, okay?
Well, I will talk to her after the hearing.
That's probably a good idea. Okay, you'll have to formally ask for a continuance.
I will ask for a continuance to meet with the adjacent property owner and discuss this with Mr. Giardella, and to get a more formal drainage plan that we can submit to the planning board.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I think we're gonna be looking for an overall site plan, not just necessarily
Yeah,
a
we
drainage
will
yeah,
do-
plan.
the whole kit and caboodle.
We will address the comments, because there was question, as we show the parking area, but we will designate more particularly the parking area, and also the, the drainage issue, which will have to be reflected on here, and any other comments that Mr. Giardella mentioned, we'll deal with all of them on the next proposed.
And Mr. Peters from engineering as well.
And
So,
pardon?
Mr. Peters from the engineering department as well,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
Just so that we're clear.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Cheryl, minutes?
November 9th.
I need a motion to accept the minutes from November 9th. Mr. Warren makes the motion. Mr. Sweeney seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any new business? No new business. I need a motion to adjourn.
Next meeting is January 13th.
Next meeting is January 13th. There's no meeting in 2 weeks. Mr. Mandel makes a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Mr. Warren seconds. All in favor? Aye. That's all we have.